Yeah, good morning. It's me, Danny. Just want y'all to know I just rolled over. Like, I just woke up, I just rolled over. I didn't brush my teeth, I didn't wash my face or anything, so I might be looking kind of crusty. Don't judge me. Y'all, this book is so good. I'm about to just start reading it to you. It's called Jesus is Blank, okay? And it's not what you expect it to be. First heard of this book from Pastor Michael Todd when he was doing a series about grace, and was really interested in reading the book myself to see what it was about. So anyway, this is chapter 1. Starts with super bad or sorta bad. If God can help so and so, he can help anyone. I've heard myself say it a few times. So and so is always a reference to skilled sinners, famous for their proficiency in wrongdoing. They are awesome at sin. They sin a lot, and they enjoy their sin. Did you hear that actress got another divorce? That's 5 failed marriages, and this marriage only lasted 3 months. Man, if God could get her straightened out, he could help anybody. That leader calls himself a Christian, but can you believe what he was involved in? He should be ashamed of himself. If God can help him, he can help anybody. Let's be honest, most people like to look down on mostly bad people. We enjoy the feelings of condescending pity or self-righteous outrage. We gleefully hold up notorious evildoers and marvel at evildoers as marvels of depravity, examples of just how bad people can get. Then we finish off our lattes, load our 2.2 children into our almost paid off SUVs, and head off to contribute to society. Notice how I just included myself in the mostly good category. I didn't think about it, I just did it. That's what bothers me most. The badness scale. The problem with the if God can save me statement is that it implies a rating system for sins. It is unspoken, often culture driven, and arbitrary badness scale or goodness scale depending on whether we are rating others or ourselves. On our scale, we label small sins, medium large sins, extra large sins, and supersized sins. If we see someone with small to medium sins, we think he's a pretty good person. He's fairly sound and engaged morally. He's obviously close to Jesus. It won't be hard for God to get a hold of him. Then we see someone with medium to large sins and we get more nervous. We really have to pray for her. Her life is going downhill fast. God is going to have to get her attention the hard way. She really needs to work on fixing herself so she can get closer to God. When we come across a supersized sinner, someone who commits big sins, we just shake our heads in hyperbious pity. Nowhere in the Bible, however, do we find God distinguishing between levels of sin. God doesn't share our rating system. To him, all sin is equally evil, and all sinners are equally lovable. Obviously, sins have different consequences. Some will get you incarcerated or your face punched in, while others won't even be noticed. But God just calls sin, sin. Zacchaeus the gangster. I hope I'm saying his name right. Zacchaeus. Jesus didn't have a rating system for sin either. He was willing to accept anyone, to love anyone. Nowhere is this more evident than the story of Zacchaeus the tax collector. I should mention up front that when I read Bible stories, all the main characters have accents. That's just how my mind works. Concentration has never been my strong suit, and I suspect the accents are a desperate ploy sponsored by my brain to keep me focused. Zacchaeus, in my mind, was a bit of a gangster. If you can't read his dialogue with a bit of swagger, you and I are not going to connect very well for the next few pages. You may need to listen to a few hip-hop albums and try again. In case you aren't familiar with the story, Zacchaeus was a tax collector. Actually, he was a chief tax collector. He was also really short. That's important. Here's the story straight from the Bible. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but was too short to see over the crowd, so he ran and climbed a sycamore tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He had gone to be a guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give away half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, Salvation has come to this home today. For this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. That's Luke 19:1-10. Interesting backstory. Israelites of Jesus' day looked at tax collectors as thieves and pimps. Tax collectors were Jews who worked for the Roman government, which ruled Israel at the time. Their job was to collect taxes from their own people and hand the money over to the hated foreign power. Their own income came from whatever they could get out of people after they met Rome's quota. So Zacchaeus and his fellow tax collecting traders would make up tax amounts on the fly. Zacchaeus was a professional cheat and embezzler. He took money from little old ladies. He was a thief. I think Zacchaeus was up on pop culture, by the way. I think he liked making appearances. He liked being in on the action. When they rolled out the red carpet and the camera showed up, Zacchaeus was going to be there. A lady on each arm looking over his sunglasses at the crew from TMZ. Hey, y'all. When he gave press conferences, he talked about himself in third person. Zacchaeus was a short guy, but don't be deceived by his stature. He had a lot of money. At some point, years before, he had been recruited by the Romans. He was probably a bit of a prodigy. He would have started out as an assistant to a tax collector. He provided his worth to a tax collector. After proving his worth, he would have been promoted to tax collector. Ultimately, when we find him in the story, he has become the chief tax collector. He probably oversees an entire tax district and a gang of many tax collectors who give him a cut of their take. This makes Zacchaeus a major reject. He is infamous, legendary, notorious. How long has he been doing this? 5 years? Longer than that. He's a chief tax collector. 10 years? 20? I don't think he minds being hated. In fact, I think he's loving life. He's up in his big house overlooking the city, lounging in his infinity pool with servants fanning him and dropping grapes in his mouth. Everybody fears him now. Sure, they hate him, but at least they respect him. Back in elementary school, nobody picked the short guy, but now they're afraid of the little man. Zacchaeus is the big guy on the block. Rumor was Jesus might be the promised Messiah. Zacchaeus had grown up in Jewish culture and he would have been familiar with the prophecies. No doubt he had heard that one day there would come a Messiah. Now, Jesus is coming through the town, and Zacchaeus says, I'm going to check this guy out. He's getting a lot of followers. A lot of guys are talking about him. I'm curious. I doubt Zacchaeus was thinking, man, I sure hope Jesus saves me. Saves him from what? His big house? All the ladies who love him? No, he just wanted to check out the popular guy. Zacchaeus was all about status. You don't become a tax collector and then a chief tax collector and not like money and status. He was famous in a negative sense, but famous nonetheless. Jesus starts scrolling through. People are lining the streets trying to catch a glimpse of him. As Zacchaeus realizes he can't see over the crowd. This is checked up, he says to himself. I'm not going to be able to see this dude. Zacchaeus is an innovative guy who is used to getting his way, so he hitched up his blinged out robe, runs ahead, gold chains clanking, and climbs a sycamore tree. Sure enough, he could see the dust cloud of all the people clumped around Jesus. You would think it was Justin Bieber or something. He's rolling down the street, and suddenly Zacchaeus can't believe his luck. He stops right next to the man's tree. Right next to the little man's tree. I'm sorry. This is dope, he was thinking. I could check this guy out from up here and maybe listen in on what he has to say. Then, to Zacchaeus' surprise, Jesus looks up at him. He calls him by name. What? How do you know me? I don't know you. Who told you about me? They say the sweetest sound to a human being's ears is the sound of his or her own name. God calls the rejected, hardened, selfish man by his name. Zacchaeus, hurry down. I'm headed over to your house right now. You are? Okay, yeah. Zacchaeus is relishing in the moment. All the upstanding religious Jewish, all the upstanding religious Jews want a minute with Jesus, a nod, a handshake. Yet now, the chief tax collector, the biggest bad guy around, gets a personal invitation. I think he's looking at everyone saying, "What's up now, y'all?" He sends the word to all his cronies and tax collector minions to come over and meet Jesus. This is his moment in the limelight. I'm changing everything. But that afternoon, something unexpected and unexplainable began to happen in Zacchaeus' heart. How long did he have an audience with the living God? 2 hours? 4 hours? We don't know. What did they talk about? We can only guess. We can assume they ate a meal together and Jesus probably listened a lot. Zacchaeus must have thought, nobody listens to me except for a few guys who work for me. But this guy cares. He listens. He gets it. I can imagine Zacchaeus looking into the most compassionate eyes he's ever seen and thinking, does Jesus know who I am? Does he know who is around my dinner table? Does he know what we do for a living? Does he know what paid for this fish? Does he know how I paid for this house? He must, but he doesn't reject me. After a few hours with Jesus, Zacchaeus can't contain himself any longer. Abruptly, he stands up, seemingly overwhelmed with who this Jesus is. And in front of family, peers, employees, he blurts out, I'm changing everything. What? I'm changing everything, Jesus. I'm gonna start giving my money away. In fact, anyone I've cheated, I'm gonna give them back 4 times what I stole. The callous, money-hungry Bob Moss is about to go broke, and he doesn't even care. A moment with Jesus changed everything. I wonder what Jesus said in one short afternoon that changed his lifelong taker into a lavish giver. But that's not the only point of this passage. I think the Bible skips over what they talked about because we try to turn it into a recipe or a program. It wasn't what Zacchaeus talked about. It was the person he talked about it with. It was about being with Jesus. What changed Zacchaeus? Biblical principle? Personal devotion? Religious duty and deeds? No, just a few moments with God in the flesh. We don't have a record of anyone telling Zacchaeus he needed to repent or give the money back, but something came over him. Something came over this man when he encountered Jesus. Hurry down. The truth is, I am Zacchaeus. I may not be short in stature, but I'm short spiritually and in my own ability, in my own capacity. Even if I want to get to Jesus, even if I want to see Jesus, I can't see past myself. I can't see past my sin, past my distractions, past my ego. How do we try to reach Jesus? We run faster and we climb proverbial trees of religious actions. We think, I'll just get to Jesus. I'll impress Jesus with who I am. I believe most people have a sense of inadequacy and failure deep within themselves. No matter how hard they try or what they accomplish, they know they are in a dark place. They are short in spirit, in a spiritual sense. They have skinned and sorry. They have sinned and come short of God's glorious standard. So they think, I'll run faster, I'll run ahead, I'll find a tree and climb it, I'll get God's attention. As if you're running and climbing is what gets God's attention. That's not what saved Zacchaeus. It was God's mercy, it was God's grace, it was God's initiative. We think God stops and takes notice of us because he sees us in our cute sycamore tree. We think it is because we are so good. See, God, I got you to notice. You see me? It's because I pray so loud, because I pray so much, because I attend church. But that's not why Jesus stopped that day. He stopped of his own choosing. He stopped because he's gracious and he's good. He stopped because he knew Zacchaeus by name, just as he knows me and knows you. Jesus told Zacchaeus to hurry, and he tells us the same thing. Hurry down from religion, hurry down from tradition. Quit trying to pick yourself up. Only my grace can save you. Come down and come now. Don't spend another moment or another day trusting yourself. I need to be with you today. Whew. While Zacchaeus spoke, Jesus must have been smiling to himself. But now he makes an announcement of his own. Today, salvation has come to this house. Zacchaeus is a son of Abraham, a true Jew. Zacchaeus is stunned. He is the quintessential traitor, the bad guy, the antithesis of a good Jew. For as long as he can remember, he's been on the outside looking in. Now he's on the inside. Now he's a good guy. I wish I could have seen the look on his friends' faces. If there's hope for Zacchaeus, there must be hope for me too. Then Jesus summed up his life's mission. I'm here to find and help lost people. That's why I've come. The Pharisees thought the Messiah was only coming for the chosen few, for the sanctified few, for the religious few. But Jesus said over and over that he came for the broken, the bad, the addicted, the bound, the deceived, the lost, the hurting. Sometimes we're a lot like Zacchaeus. We've been at the sin thing for a long time. We have problems, weaknesses, and propensities toward doing wrong. We've gotten a little scarred and numb to the whole thing, maybe even outright cynical. We are helpless, hopeless. Even Jesus couldn't set me free, we think. After all, we've tried as hard as we can and nothing has changed. He wouldn't see anything worth saving in us anyway. Maybe it's a secret sin, an affair 8 years ago that not even your spouse knows about. Maybe it's something that controls your life, like alcoholism or some other addiction. People have told you you'll never change, and you started to believe them. And you're starting to believe them. Jesus is not your accuser. He's not your prosecutor. He's not your judge. He's your friend and your rescuer. Like Zacchaeus, just spend time with Jesus. Don't hide from him in shame or reject him in self-righteousness. Don't allow the opinions of others to shape your concept of him. Get to know him for yourself and let the goodness of God change you from the inside out. That is chapter 1. I'm going to go on to chapter 2 in the next video because it's already almost 20 minutes long. Chapter 2 is called The Dark Side. I already read chapter 1, but I just wanted to read it to you because it just started to get so good. Chapter 2, I read about half of it, but I'm just going to start another video and go back. We'll just read this book. I found it on Amazon, and it was like, I think probably like less than $15. So anyway, good morning. Have a good day.